And we have takes. Welcome to Football Takes.
Football! Yeah! Football!
We got takes. We got football takes each and every day. It is Zolgad. It is Thorsky. It is AJ. And welcome if you have not visited us before at the new Football Takes channel. Sometimes it involves Mackie. Sometimes it involves Declan. A cast of thousands. Hit the like and subscribe here because we've got takes for days. And let's start with this one. Thor, you're our guy. Give us your first football take on this Thursday.
My first take is get ready for the Mike Macdonald clones. I always get those two guys, but get ready for the clones.
It's too close.
Yeah. The NFL, a copycat league, and we have a new sort of prototype to copy now with the ascendance of the Seahawks. And the thing of the last 4 years of drafting, the Seahawks have smashed it. Of course, drafting and development, but I'm talking more about the emphasis and the focus on defense, special teams, and then putting together an offense that can be multiple. And that's what the Seahawks have done. And you look at the defensive dominance, but there's also principles of that in their offense as well, where they can beat you however you want to play. That Seahawks team, they could have won higher scoring games and certainly the lower scoring games, but they can also mix and match for your personnel. A guy like on their defense, Nick Manwari, a mix and match sort of a guy that can take away matchups. On offense, they'll bring in the multiple tight ends. They can also go three wide, just depending on, whatever. But that emphasis of teams where it goes back to the defense, the special teams, and then we'll sort of go from there. It's an era of football that we might be moving back towards defensive first head coaches after an era. The last one, of course, it was the Sean McVay clones.
Yes.
And there was a joke on Twitter that I loved where it said in a decade, it's going to be 32 Sean McVay offenses in the NFL and 32 Mike Macdonald defenses in the NFL, which very well could be true, but get ready for the copycatting of this Seattle Seahawks blueprint.
I saw a tweet as well. Mike Macdonald, the first head coach to call a defense for his team to win a Super Bowl. So like Zimmer called it here. So I got a question off of that point. Because one, yeah, you're right. This league is such a copycat league. I fully expect that you are probably correct here. But let me ask you this. When you look at, because I mean, Zimmer was an older version of this in some ways. When you look at what Mike did here, the good and the bad, and keep in mind, I always draw a line, 2018. It went sideways with Kirk. I know. Zimmer didn't want him, a lot of things, but, Mike took over in 2014 through 2017 and did a lot of good things. But where do you think, what to you is the biggest contrast or differences between what Macdonald accomplished and what Zimmer didn't accomplish, given the fact that they were both defensive guys who called defensive plays and definitely knew how to build a defense? Where do you think Zimmer, especially when things were going well, where do you think he came up short where Macdonald obviously got to the pinnacle?
I think Macdonald's more open-minded, less intractable. I think that's one of the things. You have a better relationship with the front office and maybe some of your assistant coaches where everyone's on the same page as far as like synergy. We saw where Zimmer, the intractability there of it's got to be my way, but no, you're not in charge of this decision, but okay, well then now I'm not going to talk to you. So you saw some of that, but I think also, and this would be, I guess, a defense of Zimmer, that he also did not have the front office, the scouting department, that getting the talent as consistently as the Seahawks have been getting for the last 4+ years. Started with the Russell Wilson trade and then building everything up through the draft. The talent on hand was better for Macdonald. But that being said, Zimmer could have done certainly a better job in his post as well. This is, again, prototype guy in Mike Macdonald, a guy that learned under Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, and then you go up and you get your first opportunity here. And just sort of the way that he set up that organizational structure works so well with John Schneider, a guy who's been in that seat for a long time and has worked with a bunch of different head coaches. That's not assured. right? Sometimes you have the new coach go in under the longtime GM. No, now I'm the boss, and then you have fighting, or maybe you have too much deference or whatever, where it's not a holistic working relationship. But Macdonald got that; it was right away. It was his system, and it seemed like Schneider understood everything that he was looking for, and there's just been like a symbiosis with that, and to turn that thing into a machine. So obviously that was something lacking as well with the Zimmer era Vikings.
Age?
Yeah, the clones that you're going to see, I think, are just really incredible. It's funny how I think it's almost like a year-to-year basis, just how much you can see like the opinions of the coach that each team needs to just like flip on a dime, and the way that all of a sudden you're going to tear things down and like, oh, we back this guy. This is our coach for the next decade. Here's our guy. Well, hold on. There's a brand new way, and this is how we're going to pivot, and this is how we're going to push and drive progress in the league. And it's very adaptive. I don't know. Maybe it's a reflective of like, one, how wishy-washy I think the NFL can be for how hard stuck I think a lot of teams can be with like culture. And this goes back to our conversation from a few weeks ago about like the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, where they're a certain type of football organization, and they want to play a certain way, and the culture is there. But then you look at some of these other teams where it's just back and forth. We're always looking for the next best thing.
You mean the Jets?
It's the Jets. Exactly. It's the Jets. And look at how great they are. You know, what a powerhouse of a team. That probably opens up a new like conversation too, which is like well, it's the grass is always greener. You know, is it really always greener on the other side? Granted, when you get to that brand new yard and it's a luscious emerald green, you got that Kentucky bluegrass, you know, sodded in on your front yard, I'm sure it's lovely. But a lot of the times you move and it's got this goat track and it's just dirt and weeds blowing everywhere, and you're like, you know what, maybe we should have stayed where we were.
And you can see the allure of it, of copying that blueprint, right? Like if you've been wandering in the desert and it's like, oh, I'm going to die of thirst soon, and then there's like a map given to you of like, oh, there was a guy who was standing right where you were, and this is how he got out. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna copy every single step, and I'm gonna get out the exact same way that he is, and then it's gonna be prosperity. But so that's the idea. But what ends up happening in the copycat thing is invariably you're hiring copycats that are bad knockoffs of the original, and they're employing bad, it's not the exact same as the original, right? It's like, what was the movie with Michael Keaton? Was it Multiplicity, where every Michael Keaton, then he got dumber and dumber and dumber? That's what it feels like with the copycat thing. And you sort of like coming from the McVay thing, some of the knockoffs of McVay aren't even following McVay principles anymore. Right. I'm not going to name names, but Sean McVay at least showed that he could go from a league starting out with his coaching tenure where it was a lot of wide receivers on the field and you try to spread everyone, get the ball into space, and then understanding where the NFL had gone. And if we have multiple tight ends out there every time, the defensive personnel is going to have to match that. And at that point, we can start manipulating you, because we can either make sure that you don't have as much speed on the field, or we can make sure you don't have the muscle on the field. And then we can play against the look that you're giving us. So, the innovator guys, the McDonald's, the McVays, those guys are going to adapt no matter what. And it seems like a lot of times the thing that is being copied, it's like the first Kodak, that's out of the camera. But then those guys have now moved on to they're doing digital photos and like all this stuff. But then you still have the people copycatting the original and just doing it worse and worse when the league's already moved on.
And I also think that I think one of the biggest problems is you copycat what you can see, but it's what you can't see that is so important.
Well said.
So like you are like, okay, we're going to get a coach like, we're going to go get a defensive coach because Mike Macdonald did a great job. Well, that's awesome. But and we've touched on this, but there's so much more below the surface of what the Seahawks have done to get there. And that, that's the thing is, and these teams that are hopeless, like the Jets, the Browns, a lot of times, more and more so, unfortunately, the Dolphins, they don't even understand that, hey, we're trying to hire the same people, but we don't understand why their culture is good. We don't understand why, how did they get there? And like, to your point, I mean, the Russell Wilson trade, what John Schneider has done, what that entire front office has done. And you also look at this, and this is where the Vikings really concern me, is a lot of these teams, the coach might be good, but the GM's also good. And in some of these cases, the GM has a ton of say. And like right now, the Thor, You're the draft guy. The Vikings are literally going to go into the draft without anyone really in charge. Like, I think O'Connell's going to draft guys. I think Flores is going to draft guys. I think Rob Brzezinski is going to be the traffic cop there. But is that a great plan? And Kwesi was not. But my point is, if you have 10 picks, you want those picks to be really good, solid, foundational. This is what we know. And I feel like you're going to have people drafting for their jobs. I feel like you're going to have people listening to people who know what they're talking about. But, Kevin O'Connell can't sit there and watch a ton of film until now. So, like, these are the things that concern me. These are the things that keep me up nights, because these are the things that are going to cost you, because you drafted a guy in the second round because you said he can plug and play. And then you passed on a guy who you probably should have drafted. That's last year's draft, right? Yeah. So, like, look at what these teams that are stable and understand what they're doing, what they do. And then you look at these teams that are sort of trying to do it on the fly. And I'm sorry, on the fly, in football especially, but probably all pro sports, does not work.
That's very well said. And, we're talking about copying a blueprint, like a specific thing, and way is seeing that, and then you sort of get on a track, right? And I think what the top echelon coaches, and this is any era, right? But the top coaches in the NFL right now, they are not defined by, they do this one particular thing. They call this one particular, it's adaptability. Yep. I think is the number one vision, adaptability, but adaptability most of all, right? I mean, these guys mostly are the first through the wire with some different philosophical things that then other people end up copying. But the adaptability becomes more important, right? Your ability with the circumstance to just sort of go with it and put our team in the best possible situation, even if other people don't understand it, right? With the looks that we're getting and the way that the NFL is going, the way that defenses have started to play smaller defenders on the field, more speed, no problem. We're going to bring out 2 and 3 tight ends all the time. And then when you bring out too many linebackers, we're going to start throwing over your head, right? And just adapting in the moment, but also sort of overall, I think that's, you're looking for a guy that has that sort of a mind, identifying future head coaches.
Exactly right. AJ, what is your football take?
My football take is that I'm okay with sharing, but we have to draw a line at a certain point. And what I mean is the international games with the NFL are simply getting out of hand. We're running down a path where I think at a certain point we're going to
Love where you're going with this one.
This is so true. That's why I'm laughing.
Just to kind of recap here, it's been an international affair the past few years with the NFL. Games being played in Germany, in Spain, the UK, Ireland, Brazil, Mexico City, all these grand events. And granted, I understand it's a great sport. You want to get it international. You have fans around the world that want to witness their favorite NFL teams, or sometimes just the Jacksonville Jaguars in person. Well, there's stuff that is in place to do that. And you have these agreements where they're booking things at Wembley every year. You're booking things at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Mm-hmm. You've now expanded. I'm drawing the line here because this past week, the NFL announced that there will be a game not in Europe, not in Latin America, not in Africa, in Australia.
Put another shrimp on the barbie.
Melbourne. And as somebody who watches a lot of international sports, I dabble with European soccer. I will tune in for the Australian Open, probably more than often the reruns, like the tape delayed. Because when they are playing prime time in Melbourne, Australia it is 2:30, 3 in the morning. That's simply it's not feasible for Americans to like cater their schedule unless you're working like overnights or something along those lines. You now have 9 games slated for 2026 that are not going to be played within the confines of the continental United States. You have, if I scroll down here, you have Melbourne, Australia. Keep in mind, this is not a matchup between bottom barrel teams. This is the Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. 2 12-win organizations last season are playing in freaking Australia. Why are we taking
What's kickoff time?
To be determined, to be announced. But I bet you it's either one thing where you're going to cater to the American fans. Well, in that case, why even take it away from, LA or San Fran to begin with? And if you're going to cater to the Australian fans, which frankly, if you're moving the game that you probably should, you're forcing these fans to stay up or wake up early and watch their team play at 3 o'clock, and one of them is going to end up losing. So it's a total wasted thing. You're also going to be playing in Brazil. You're going
Again,
to Rio de Janeiro.
That's 3 years, right? You've been to Brazil?
Yes, 3 years. And guess who is going down there to usher in this new experience of NFL football? Not some bottom barrel team. The freaking Dallas Cowboys. Now, granted, are they a powerhouse right now? No, they missed the playoffs. But it's still not on name recognition alone. You're taking away one of the most storied franchises, whether you love them or hate them. NFL franchises. You're taking away one of those games from one of the states to move it to Brazil. You have, if I also look away, look elsewhere, you're going to Paris. You're taking away the brand new phenom down in New Orleans with Tyler Shuck. You're moving the Saints and whoever their opponent's going to be to a game in Paris. We have to be announced going to Germany, where they're going to play at Allianz Arena. You're going to go to Madrid to play at the Bernabeu. Those are still to be announced, but then you have 2 more games happening at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, and then the Jaguars, who for at one time it was acceptable because they were kind of a laughingstock, and it's like, okay, you're gonna throw whoever they got out there to go. Blake Bortles is gonna go run around in London for a week.
Sure.
Now they look like a competent team. Now they look like a darn good football team. Trevor Lawrence, believe it or not, the guy that didn't lose for 4 years prior to coming to the NFL. He's a good football player, and now they're kind of coming around. Well, now you're going to send them over there, too. You're taking very solid teams or franchises away from NFL fans here in the States, and I'm fine with that. But I think we're also going down a road where with these expansions, with these, I guess, the growth that and the greed that the NFL has, Roger Goodell has also never once said that he would never move the Super Bowl out of the United States. He's hinted at the potential possibility that if they were to expand, first off, there's no reason to expand with 32 teams. We already see some of the quarterbacks that are captaining and leading some of these teams onto the field. There's no more reason to expand. 32 teams is just fine. But if you expand even more, we're going down a road where in 10, 20, 30 years, Super Bowl 74 coming to you live from Munich, Germany. Make sure you tune in for the halftime show where it's going to be kicking off at, 4:30 in the morning, because that's, it's ridiculous. This is something that's been bothering me, because why are we playing NFL games in Australia?
The whole thing's absurd. I did a tweet last week. I said, instead of this nonsense, do it in the preseason if you have to. Do it in the preseason if you have to.
That's when it should be.
The NFL should barnstorm big, historic college football stadiums in states that do not have an NFL franchise. How fun would it be to see an NFL game in Bryant-Denny Stadium, Alabama Stadium, Kinnick Stadium, Iowa's? How fun would it be to watch the Vikings play the Bears in Kinnick Stadium? If we're going to move it out of a home stadium, which I don't necessarily advocate for, but this would actually be a cool thing, both for the people in the states that do not have NFL. You don't have access to go to an NFL game driving, right? You bring it close to them, but also for the television audience, Oklahoma, Clemson, Nebraska Stadium would be right. Chiefs against Broncos in Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska. If you want to do that. Now, the argument is you go international because you've already tapped out the American market and you're trying to shake down these other parts of the world to convert new fans. Fine. Put the preseason games over there is one idea. Number 2, and this is something they already tried before, not very good. I wonder if in the modern times you could get this, you could do this better, is create your minor. I think football needs a legitimate minor league system. They tried NFL Europe before. Try that idea again. If you're so resolute to get these games there, or preseason, if your idea is these people that don't know football well enough, so that's why we have to bring it to their front porch, but they're so discerning with their taste for football, the sport that they don't know, that's why we have to bring it there, that they won't accept preseason football. What are you doing with the argument here? If you sent teams out in the beginning of August, all 32 of you, we're going to dot you over 16 stadiums over the next 10 days, right, around the world. Why can't you do that? Start out their season like that, then give them a week or 2 off, then they do their other preseason game later in the month. What's wrong with that? If you're going to do that, right? My preference would be for none of them. The one above that would be the minor league thing. But then if you're going to do it, do preseason. And if you actually want to impact the sport by bringing it to stadiums and areas that don't have NFL football, go to Kinnick Stadium. Go to Bryant-Denny Stadium. Bring those diehard football fans your NFL product.
Problem is, you cannot take over the world if you're playing preseason games there and or going to college stadiums. So, like, that's their goal. And mark my word, the Super Bowl at some point in time is going to Europe.
But it's a weird argument, isn't it, Judd? Like, we have to bring the sport there because they don't have exposure to it, but they're not going to accept the preseason. Only the regular season with the two best teams they have to have.
But they do have exposure on television, and now they want real games. And the NFL, I mean, we're talking about some of the greediest people in the world. Like, these are greedy. They cannot make it. They're about to reopen a television contract that I think runs through 2029 or 30 because they see that the NBA just made a killing. And so they're like, our contracts are no longer good enough. We can make billions more. I mean, the greed here is incredible. And the egregious one, like, to me, is Australia. Like, you are sending two teams. I mean, you are. If I am, what you said, it's San Francisco against whom?
L.A. The Rams.
So if I'm McVay or Shanahan, I'm livid about this. Like, you are literally sending me. Do you know what your body clock does when you go to Australia? I've never been there, but I bet it goes haywire. So,
when I go to California, my body clock goes haywire.
Me too.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is one. It's not surprising in the least. Two, it is just another sign of the greed. I mean, this league, let's be honest, it ain't run by great people. They don't care about the players. You know, they care about concussions because they got sued. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care about concussions.
They don't care at all.
Yeah, I mean, they don't want to be sued, so they act like they care. But when it comes to, I mean, the Vikings spent, and I'm pretty sure off the record, you could now get the Vikings to tell you this was a mistake. They spent 2 weeks in Europe.
Yes, this is not talked about enough. And I will put my hand up on this, this is something that I was wrong about. I thought if you take the two Europe games and you put it back to back, they were the first team in NFL history where they played the back to back. I thought that the Vikings would have the competitive advantage in the second. So I was like, oh, that's actually pretty clever. Yeah, not so much. The whole team hated it. Jordan Addison, but we didn't know where he was for a part of it. You're bringing your quarterback where on the flight afterwards, he's like, yeah, my ankle swelled up, so now he's going to miss more. The whole thing was a disaster. People hated being away for that long. The media, who the first couple of days, they're like, oh, look at this. They were taking pictures of their food and stuff, and isn't this cool? By the seventh day of that trip, they were like, get me out of here. You know, it's like,
everybody was.
The whole thing, it was just disastrous. So, this is a great point, Judd.
AJ is right, though. Yes, it's the problem is it's going to continue, and just wait. In a couple of years, we're going to be at 18 games, and we're going to see more and more because the league considers your now it's 17 games, and you rotate, 9 home games, and then 8 home games and 9 home games. When we go to 18 games, they're going to see this as a free-for-all. They're not going to say, oh, everybody now gets 9 home games. They're going to say, you get 9 home games, but I don't think that they'll be sent abroad this year, but I almost guarantee you that in 2027, the Vikings will be back playing somewhere that's not in this country. Almost guarantee it.
Probably, although there should be a protest after the Vikings had to do it twice in the last season. And I got a better idea.
Okay.
We do the rule, all this stuff. Okay, so if you're saying it has to be regular season games, because, again, the folks that don't have exposure to NFL football, their taste of NFL football, it's so high. You must give them regular season above preseason. If that's the case, you already do the thing of the 4th place schedule, the 3rd place schedule. And we steal a book from Europe and their relegation system, which I wish we had one in football. Instead of relegation, how about this? If you finish 3rd or 4th in your division, you're going to Europe next year. You get in the top 2, you get to stay home. How about that?
That's actually, I like that.
Those teams already get unfairly rewarded with their spot in the draft and also an easier schedule. Send their butts to Europe. If someone's got to go, 3rd and 4th place teams.
And speaking of the protests, this is where I'll also take a soccer perspective too, because this past December, Villarreal and Barcelona were supposed to play a regular season game of La Liga in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. Well, based on outspoken players, fan pushback, basically protests, pressuring team owners to be like, no, don't do this. We are going to boycott. We're going to not. Guess what? They canceled the game.
Good.
They canceled the game because players didn't want to do it. Fans didn't want it to happen because they're taking away a home game for a certain franchise, for a certain club. Same thing here. Like,
And by the way, if that was a preseason game, they wouldn't have complained about him. I wouldn't have known the difference.
Yeah, they come here
that.
and put down. Yeah,
What do you call it,
They do
friendly?
that every single season.
Have it
They
be a
do
friendly.
They do those tours where it's like it's the United States Cup, but it's basically preseason. It's a tune-up. They kind of care, but they don't. If this was an NFL preseason game where you're going over there and then you're going to watch J.J. McCarthy go out and get a couple drives or whatever, that's what you get. If it's regular season,
Enough
you
to
either
get me
need
out of the
limit it-
house.
Yeah, right. I actually love that idea, Thor.
I do too.
Yeah.
That
Relegate
is-
them to Europe.
And a
There's a
fourth
deal.
place team, if you're a last place team, you're going to Australia.
The further away. The
We
worse
know,
your
you
record.
go, you're going to go, your body clock's off. You know why? Because you deserve to have it off.
Yeah, you're going the furthest.
What do we got here?
I love this.
Week 1 in Siberia. It's Raiders Jets coming to you.
The first game played on Mars or whatever, or the moon, or we're going to expand to other planets at some point.
The Hilton Mars.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll stay at the Hilton Mars. All
I
right.
like this.
Okay, here's mine. And I'm going to continue the league complaining a little bit here.
Okay.
All right, so we all love this sport, the NFL. Off-season's great for the most part. Regular season's great. Playoffs are fantastic. But I swear to God, ESPN in particular, NFL partner, is going to make me hate Super Bowl 61 next season. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the day after Super Bowl 60 ended on Monday, we had the handoff, they called it, because ESPN is going to get their first Super Bowl next February. And the handoff was we're all going to be at Disneyland because, you know, we're Walt Disney-owned company, and the game's going to be at SoFi Stadium, which technically I think is in Inglewood, but it's considered to be, I think by a lot of people, Los Angeles. And anyway, let me just read you this, okay?
Okay.
So this is an Associated Press story that ESPN put on their website. ESPN is planning on making the Super Bowl a year-round experience instead of just one day. The network, which will carry the Super Bowl for the first time on Wednesday, unveiled its plans leading up to next year's game in Los Angeles. At the forefront of the promotion is the Year of the Super Bowl, which will see extensive promotion and programming across ESPN, ABC, and Disney stations. In other words, they are going to beat us over the head with the Super Bowl, which, by the way, to me, personally, is sort of just a small part of the season. Like, there's a lot of things about football I really enjoy. And when the Super Bowl gets here, that's great. But we are going to be inundated, as only ESPN can do. We are going to be inundated with Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl. First of all, there has never been a year where I didn't know who was going to carry the damn game, okay? And everybody mentions it, and they should. That's fine. But, you know, if it's going to be Fox, you know it's Fox. CBS, NBC, you know who's going to carry it. But these yahoos are going to spend an entire year drumming it constantly of the home of Super Bowl 61, the home. I don't need it. I don't want it. In fact, the Super Bowl is sort of sad because it's really the last day of football for a long time. So ESPN executives, listen to me and listen to me closely. We know it's coming to your network, ABC as well. That's awesome. I do not need you beating me over the head, though, with Super Bowl trivia, Super Bowl highlights. I can get football things elsewhere that I really enjoy. Do not remind me constantly of something I already know. Thank you very much. End of rant.
Yeah, we already got it, right? And we don't need the TV Guide reminder, right? My grandparents used to love TV. What happened to TV Guide? Do we still have TV Guide?
Oh, we subscribed when I was a tyke.
Really?
Well, that's the way you found out about what was on TV, dude.
Are those things gone? TV Guide?
TV Guide. I don't know if it's still around. It would have like a great story about Happy Days, and then you'd look through, and it would have
the days and the network
and the summary.
And yeah,
like
yeah.
Tuesday, 7:00, Happy Days. Fonzie catches some bad guys. It was great stuff.
Yeah,
Hey.
but yeah, we don't need the reminder. You're like, great, you got a new toy. It's like your friend texting I got a new car, okay, great. Well, you told me yesterday. We don't have to hear. And about the Super Bowl, the week of the Super Bowl, I'm interested in the Super Bowl. The other,
Yes.
I'm interested in the other football games. We don't care. So and the other thing I would like to say is the move to ESPN and then Super Bowl week, and then so that's when you should be talking about the Super Bowl, and you'll have the wall-to-wall coverage, of course with tie-ins to their other properties and all this sort of a thing. keep the if I can make a statement to I don't know who runs that place, Eager or whatever, that focus on the game. When during the week with the analysis, I want it pointed towards the game, matchups that are going to occur in the game. Sit me down in there of this is the way that it could go. Talk about the players, right? The strengths and the weaknesses of the different guys and this coaching staff. What is their tendency, whatever. The thing that I think frustrates people about ESPN is you went from when I was a kid, it was SportsCenter, love SportsCenter. It was a focus on the game and then also the strategy of the game and prime time and different stuff. Whereas now it's turned into the take fest, right? And it's and then I shouldn't criticize too much because of course we do takes for a living as well, but where you remove it from the game and then you're just sort of arguing about something that is game adjacent or player adjacent as opposed to analyzing the game that is about to occur, predictive analysis. So that's something I think they should think through too. Of let's not argue about surface level things for a week because that's really going to annoy people too.
Absolutely, and that's yeah.
That's
and
gone.
I just don't need to be hammered over the head every day with this. Okay, like I get it. Like okay, that's great. You got the game. It's going to be fantastic. But you know what they do. To your point there, Thor. You know what they're going to hammer it home every single freaking day. They're going to talk about, the celebrities that might be there or stuff. And yeah, I prefer when sporting events, and if you want to have takes about the game, I guess that's fine too. But what drives me crazy is this whole, when they TMZ it up and stuff, and I just don't need it. So.
Well, I got bad news for you, because if I can call my shot, if you will.
Yeah, you're right.
And you can steal this, because if it's going to be Disney involved, if it's going to be the year of the Super Bowl and all this stuff.
Mickey and Minnie.
You look at the Super Bowl halftime show. It was the most viewed, most watched halftime show in the history of halftime shows. Well, everything has to get bigger and better every year. And you look at Disney, and you look at how they're going to, get this. Who is an artist that could top this past year's and has a strong connection with Disney? If you don't want to get it TMZ'd, I unfortunately have to break the bad news to you. But my inkling is that Taylor Swift is going to be at some point announced as the Super Bowl halftime show. Finally, the stars will align. Travis Kelce's going to announce his retirement. That'll open up the door to where it makes more sense for her. So you're going to get beat over the head with Mickey Mouse playing football, Taylor Swift dominating the halftime show, and all this stuff. And the football, I think, is just going to get lost. What Thor's talking about and what Judd you're talking about is not going to happen. It's going to be this generalized thing where I almost think football sickos are going to feel a little distasted come actual game day, where they're going to watch because it's football. Don't get me wrong. But you're going to be like, this is just the most annoying, bitter Super Bowl ever. And then if they're going to have another, frankly, stinker of a game like we saw this year, where there's not high scoring affairs, there's no 28-3 comeback, there's no Philly special, you've got some major problems. But get ready for the TMZification of the Super Bowl next season.
The most over argued about argument, I think, maybe going on a period across any, is about Super Bowl halftimes. Who cares? Literally, who cares? It's a football game, and it's a break in it where you get to talk to other human beings and go and refill your plate of chili.
It's too long a break, though.
What are we doing here? If you want to watch go and watch a musical act to whoever you pick.
You know what I've always said, Thor?
It's like this political art. Who cares?
Move the Super Bowl show to a theater.
Put it on mute.
In New York. Get it out of the stadium. That's what I've always said. Get it out of the stadium. And by the way, then let's shorten it up so that, first of all, it's ridiculously long. Second of all, I've said this for a long time. Get it out of the stadium. You can televise it. Put it in wherever, another stadium for all I care.
Yeah.
But let's keep the game moving. But of course, and I mean,
not going to happen.
If you think about it, the time that ordinarily, in fact, the National Football League in the regular season and playoffs has this down to a science. 12 minutes. College football is ridiculous. Again, get the bands off the field. I'm so sick of bands.
This is
professional. 12 minutes. 12 minutes. But, let's give it 20 minutes and let's have the act play somewhere else so that there's no cleanup and that we can get back and play football. I'm with you completely. AJ's right. It will never happen. But, yeah, as an aside, Get the bands off the field too. I'm so tired of college football halftime. It's way too long.
Judd, I've thought about this for years, and people argue about the Super Bowl halftime show and what will be the best Super Bowl halftime show, and they should do this during the Super Bowl halftime. I've thought about it for years, and I have the best Super Bowl halftime show. What they ought to do is have 4 people that really know football talking about the first half of the game, what went right and wrong for both sides of the team, showing a couple highlights, and then looking forward to the second half and what adjustments could come. I know it sounds crazy. But having 4 people talk about the football game that is on your television that you have all sat down to watch.
I think crazy. I think they had that. There was about 30 seconds. It was sponsored by Toyota, I'm pretty sure, where it was right before the show, the performance, and they kind of squeezed everything in where there was 4 people at a desk, but I blinked and I missed it, Thor, and then we got a concert for about half an hour.
Well, we end up doing our own halftime show just every year, no matter who put it on mute, and then what went right, what went wrong first half, and then how can they make with halftime this past year, it was what could New England theoretically do to try to start generating some offense? Because this game, the thing's already over. If they can't come out here and score real quick, what could they do? So then we just did the thought experiment of, okay, they haven't tried this, they haven't tried that. How would you attack that Seahawks defense? I'm sorry, I like the sport of football. I don't care about I'll buy a concert ticket. I want to go to a concert. I don't care about that.
Well, it messes with the flow of it too. If you think about, I love hockey.
Oh, it's way too
I love hockey, and when it's in the third period or something like that, it's this continuous play. You look at any good playoff baseball game, you're gonna have your break in between innings, but for the most part, it's continuous. There's stuff happening. There's the sport happening. I feel like this all of a sudden anomaly of a break in between the biggest football game of the season just for me kills the flow. I don't really care who the person is, what band it is that's performing. I'm going to watch and I'm going to sit there, but I just feel like the flow is disrupted where, granted, they're catering to not me. And I get that. So,
right. But it's just too long. It's too long.
Absolutely.
Fix it. College football, fix it as well. All right, we are done. More football takes to come because you know what? Every day you need football takes. So again, like and subscribe to the channel. Thor, AJ, Judd, we'll see you later.